Every once in a while, don't you just wish you could take your customer by the ear and just practice a little bit of mind control to get them where you want them? Welcome back to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast. In this episode, Dan Kennedy is going to go deep into the vital principles of creating mind control copy. Now, if you're somebody who feels uncomfortable about using these kind of mind control techniques, then Dan Kennedy is going to allay your fears here. These are strategies used all across the advertising world, and being able to implement them appropriately into a product or service that truly gives value does nothing but ensures that those people who need the value receive the value. And in a world where it costs more and more to get your message out into the world, this is how you make sure that each ear you catch moves closer to becoming a customer. Let's jump into the sorcery and secrets of making them buy with the 7 secrets of mind control copy, part 1 with Dan Kennedy.
I don't think there's anybody that has had a bigger impact in the field of direct response than Dan Kennedy.
The legend of Dan Kennedy should be ignored at your own peril.
They're not really lessons, they're kind of laws that you live by.
Dan opened my eyes to what small business marketing looks like.
Dan teaches strategic direct response that is timeless.
His ripple effect touches people who don't even know his name.
The world as we know it was changed because Dan Kennedy became obsessed with marketing.
Welcome to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with your host, Dan Kennedy.
So here's the preliminary remarks. We're going to deal with 7 secrets of mind control copy for the selling of info products and services. And the preface remark is this. It is possible that some of you will be made uncomfortable, more so those of you who are like the virgins to this than the ones who've been hanging around for a while, but it is possible that some of you will be made uncomfortable by some of the techniques within these 7 secrets, because the underlying premise is one of the most dangerous premises ever invented by man. It is that the end justifies the means. And in many cases, that has not worked out very well. But it is necessary to sell to the maximum and to use the most powerful techniques there are in copy to sell info products for you to feel okay in your situation with the end justifying your means. It is beyond me to have a big ethics class with you, but I will just forewarn you that I am acting under the assumption that everybody here is an honorable, ethical person who is selling good stuff that will be so beneficial to people that every extreme mechanism used to sell it is a good thing. If that's not true, it's up to you to figure out how far to back off from the maximum effectiveness. The reason extreme techniques are more necessary in this business than in many is that we actually are to a great extent selling nothing. We are essentially selling people on their own assets, skills, talents, capabilities, and opportunities that through whatever it is we do, we improve their health, we improve their wealth, we improve whatever, that they are going to be better at that. They are actually, when they invest with you, they are really investing in themselves. It is not like selling a magic slicer-dicer machine where there's a machine, and for your money, you actually walk out of the room with a machine. In our case, if you walk out with anything, you walk out with stuff that has to be translated into action in order for it to have any value. So our job is much tougher. And that requires us to use tougher techniques. So, to start with, there are 4 vital principles. Number one is, in selling, in copy that sells information, we, ironically, do not empower the prospect to think. In the selling phase of what we do, we are not in the business of getting anybody to think at all. In fact, better that they don't. We are not empowering them. We are actually making them powerless for a brief period of time to engage in any thinking except the thinking that we direct them to do that serves our purpose, which is selling them what it is that we are there by media, in person, however it is that we are there to sell them. Linked premise, we do not seek rational thought. We seek emotional response at the exclusion of rational thought. Our buyers, for the most part, have to suspend logic. They have to suspend skepticism. They have to suspend their past experience, often in order to make a purchase from us. And to do that, we are all about emotional response, not at all about logic. And everything that even appears to be logical, and I'll point it out to you in all the copy examples as we go along tonight, is really all about an emotional response. Very important. 3, ironically, we do not educate any more than is absolutely necessary to make the sale. We manipulate, we motivate. We do not need an informed consumer. We need an excited consumer. One of the biggest copy mistakes in this business is dispensing information and education and being a teacher instead of being a salesperson up until the time that we have their money and now we should begin to teach. So there is a tendency, speakers make the mistake a lot, but it transfers into media and it transfers into copy. There is a tendency, for example, if you have a marketing document that you call a special report and you offer it and deliver a report to somebody, there is a tendency for people to think that because they called it a report, it's supposed to have information in it. No. It is supposed to appear to have information in it. It is supposed to be perceived as having information in it. It is supposed to be perceived as being educational. If it is actually educational and informative, all that does is get in the way of the sale. And we are about selling stuff first, educating after the sale, not as part of the sale. 4th, there is a sales purpose behind every single piece of copy. If it does not further the sale, it does not earn its space on the page, it does not earn its minutes in the video, it does not earn its minutes on stage. Speakers, for example, will get bored with what they do. I talked about this at lunch with people. And the temptation is to put in new stuff, to talk about something topical that interests them, to do like I did at the beginning this morning and reference the CNN interview with Zuckerberg's sister. Well, that's only permissible because I had no purpose this morning other than to fill time, be perhaps informative, entertain, have everybody be happy. If I had been trying to sell something, that would be an unforgivable sin because there was nothing about it that would have advanced the sale, and in order to do it today, I would have had to take something out of that script that was there already that advanced the sale to make room for it, so in indulging myself, I would be jeopardizing the sale. People do the same thing in media. Right? They tend to put in a story that they like to tell, but it really doesn't move the sale forward. We don't have that luxury. So everything is about moving forward the sale. And it is almost always tied to an emotional factor. Now, there are some lists that exist for you of the basic E factors. You don't have to jot these down. You probably have the book they're in. So one place to find them is in the Marketing to the Affluent book. The most basic E factors are fear, We're going to spend a lot of time tonight on fear. Guilt, greed, pride, and love, or if you prefer, lust. It sort of depends on whether you're on your first marriage, second marriage, fifth marriage, where you are in that whole continuum. And then also in that book, you'll find some E factors that happen to be specific to affluent individuals. Whatever your target market, there will be E factors specific to that target market, but the big general ones apply. Importantly, we do better with the dark than with the light. And most of what you will see tonight is in the dark category, not in the light category. And I will convincingly demonstrate to you that if you have a choice and you are not able to split test, you are always better off dragging them into the darkness than you are showing them happy things and light. And I will demonstrate to you. So, we begin with the first of the 7 factors. It is shame. And so no one wants to live in Loserville. There are a whole lot of people who don't want to do enough about it to get out, and we tend not to get money from them. But no one wants to be there at all. Our buyer has a stronger reaction to it than most. He fears and loathes it, and he can be motivated to do something about it. This is called negative motivation. And of all of the options of how to sell people on improvement, opportunity, education, information, change, negative motivation works so much better than positive motivation. Here's my favorite shame ad. This is from 1923. It's the only one I think I'll show you tonight that's not actually an information marketing industry example, but it is so good I had to show it to you. This actually is for a paint and varnish products company that sells paint to paint your house with. Here's the ad. It shows 2 people standing outside a house, and the headline is, "Jones must be broke." And the copy is all about his house looks so bad, clearly the poor sucker must be broke. That's the only reason he has let his house have chip paint and so forth. And it's an ad to get you to send in a coupon to get coupons to buy paint with. You can't have a stronger shame headline than "Jones must be broke." 1923. Great copywriter. Confidence, consideration, and respect surrounds the family whose home, inside and out, bears the look of prosperity that only the proper use of paint and varnish can impart. Isn't that good? So, there's 3 chief problems with our business. So one is, we're only going to deal with one tonight, but just so you know what all 3 of them are. And I've just had 4 conversations about it before I came up here. Everybody understands the first one. So the first chief evil of our business is the cost of new customer acquisition. That's the first chief problem in our business that everybody is bedeviled by. If you're not yet bedeviled by it, you will be as soon as you try and get enough growth. So, and it manifests itself all different ways. The cost of filling a seat in a preview seminar, which is the conversation I had in the back of the room before we came up here with several people. The cost of getting traffic to a site in sufficient quantity that you can build a business from it, et cetera, et cetera. That's a subject not for tonight. The second evil is the ever-rising clutter and competition of free content. That's a topic not for tonight, but just so you know, it's the second evil. The third is one a lot of people don't understand, and it's very hard for anybody in this room to get it, and that is the absence of legitimate ambition in the overwhelming majority of every population. So if you sell to business owners, for example, and you are a business owner, You are an ambitious business owner. You're here. You spent money. You got on an airplane. You dealt with disappointed children at whose game you will not be at. You made sacrifices because you are ambitious. You get up pretty much every day being ambitious. It's very hard for you to think that there's a bunch of people in business or a bunch of people in your business who in fact are not ambitious at all. They may speak ambition, but they don't do ambition. And we mostly can only make money on people who do ambition. In business owners, there's like three categories. There's the be your own boss crowd. That's the people who really just want not to have a boss. So that's often, say, the auto mechanic who has become the owner of an auto repair shop. He did not do that because he had ambition. His ambition was limited to not having a boss. And he has the delusion that if he just owned the thing, instead of working for the guy that owned the thing, he would be free of a boss. He discovers, of course, to his dire disappointment, that he now has 1,000 bosses instead of one, because there's customers, and he has one primary boss who's completely dysfunctional and incompetent, and he also has a really crappy employee. They are one and the same. They are him. He can't quit, and he can't fire him. So he's in a world of hurt. But that does not translate into the kind of ambition that we get to leverage. The overwhelming majority can be more motivated by ambition to escape the unwanted than ambition to grow, improve, excel, build an empire, be an entrepreneur, be healthy, be fit, etc. So it's important you build into your messaging things that are related to the ambition to escape the unwanted. It exists waiting to be poked in a greater number of people, and it is easier to stimulate in a greater number of people. So we have to use it. If you only sell to 1%ers, it's very hard to make that business work. In fact, the difference between even high-income individuals and wealthy individuals is high-income individuals only monetize their customers. Wealthy people monetize all their unconverted leads. They monetize everybody who they touch, everybody who touches them one way or another. In order for us to do that, we have to appeal to the actual ambition that a large percentage of the people we talk to, write to, communicate with, start out with, which is the ambition to escape the unwanted, not the ambition to be better, to be bigger, to be richer, to be healthier, to be thinner. It is the ambition to escape the unwanted. If you want a thesaurus for it, here it is. People don't want to be left out. They don't want to be left behind. They don't want to be uncool. They don't want to be stupid. They don't want to be attached to a loser or a losing argument. This is why in politics, by the way, the perception of who's going to win begins to affect how people vote dramatically. So all the so-called undecided voters, that's why they're undecided. They're not undecided because they haven't yet got enough information in order to make a decision. It's 2 weeks from the election. Our election cycles are now permanent. By the time we get to 2 weeks before the election, how could any person possibly be? But you hear about all these undecided voters. Well, this is what they're undecided about. They're undecided about who's going to win, because they want to vote for the winner so they could say they picked a winner. They don't want to be associated with the loser. There are exceptions. Right? There's a guy in my neighborhood who's got a Jimmy Carter bumper sticker on his car. Right? But he's an exception. Right? You got to give him credit for being stubborn. Embarrassed, people don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to feel foolish. They don't want to feel incompetent. They don't want to feel weak and impotent. They don't want to be looked down upon. They don't want to be unwanted, pitied, gossiped about, unattractive, or old. And they have ambition to escape these conditions. And they are far easier to motivate about that escape than they are about the positive alternatives to all of this. It's also important to understand that even successful people, even if you sell to successful people, they are hypersensitive to criticism and imagined critical thoughts of others. Almost everybody's walking around wondering what somebody else and somebody's else is thinking about them. For the most part, nobody's thinking about them at all. So most of this is in their imagination. It's not in reality, but it is there. They are wondering about that. And so you can use it if you wish. I'll show you a couple classics. This is from 1922. You could tweak it and run it today. How little social errors ruined their biggest chance. This is a full-page ad, ran in newspapers in the 1920s. It's got a coupon in it. It's a lead generation ad for a home study course. I'm just going to read you a few of the subheads and the captions. Bad mistakes are made. The Cretans suffer keen humiliation. Excuse me. He knew that others were watching them, reading in their embarrassment their lack of social knowledge. I'll read you a paragraph. We're doing copy. I am going to have to read you a few things as we go along tonight. But then something happened. Violet noticed that Mrs. Roberts had glanced at her husband and frowned ever so slightly. She wondered what was wrong. Perhaps it was incorrect to cut a lettuce with a knife. Perhaps Ted should not have used his fork that way. In her embarrassment, she dropped her knife and bent down to pick it up at the same time that the butler did. Oh, it was humiliating, unbearable. They should never have come. They didn't know what to do. They did not know how to act. You could tweak it. You could run it today. Now, the truth of the matter is, of course, really probably nobody thought anything of it. Right? But we think, people think something of it. That's why we own mirrors. If we weren't sensitive to this, we would just put on what we wanted and go. Here is an ad. This is not an information ad. This is, I'm not sure how old this is, but it's ancient. The photograph at the top is of a couple, woman adoringly looking at him, and this guy over here, kind of pathetic, turned down again. Let me read you a paragraph. The problem, by the way, is a thing called comedones. Does anybody know what comedones is? Anybody want to guess? Very good. Yeah, it's blackheads. What's more, you may not even be conscious of comedones, but your friends notice them. You may wonder why invitations become fewer, why friends, girls in particular, seem to avoid you. You may never guess. Perhaps it's comedones. Pompeian massage cream helps you overcome comedones. Key words. You may wonder why invitations, see, you don't even know. This is how Listerine was sold to start with, by the way, too. Bad breath was an invented, the owners of Listerine invented the condition. Okay. Here's a more contemporary ad, more recent, for an information product. Let me give you the secrets of fearless conversation. There's an endorsement here by Larry King, by the way. Don't you hate it? The prospect of walking into a room that's packed with strangers, having to approach someone you've never met and strike up a conversation. It's natural to feel uncomfortable. You don't know. Are you making a positive first impression? Are you saying the right things? The answer is this course. Right? It might interest you where this ad succeeded. Investor's Business Daily, The Wall Street Journal, Forbes, not Trailer Park Monthly. Point being, personal anxiety and hypersensitivity to criticism, the desire not to be embarrassed, the desire not to be gossiped about, the desire not to feel foolish, is not exclusive to any demographic or psychographic. The Forbes 400, the richest men and women in the world, get up every morning worrying about this stuff just like anybody else does. And when they go into any environment they're not comfortable with, what they want to know is, how are you supposed to behave around here? Now, they do know probably which fork to use, but they go into all sorts of environments they don't know the answer. One of the all-time classic ads in our industry is they all laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play. There's a version of this. I couldn't lay my hands on it, but there's a version of this. Caples also wrote it about they all laughed when they all laughed when the waiter came over in the French restaurant, but then when I started to order in French. It's not exactly that, but it's pretty close. It's the same premise, being laughed at, not wanting to be laughed at. So the whole first part of this ad, this is all about how he's being goaded into playing, and really they're goading him into play in order to make fun of him. The subhead says, "Then I started to play. Instantly a tense silence fell on the guests. The laughter died on their lips as if by magic. I played through the first few bars of Beethoven's immortal Moonlight Sonata." Yeah, right, from the home study course. I heard gasps of amazement. My friends sat breathless, spellbound. The subhead here is a complete triumph. Now, the truth of the matter is, who do you know who doesn't want to stick it up the butts of some friends of theirs over some skepticism those friends have about them? We all do. This is one of the most reliable emotions there is. This is a successful ad of mine. It will look familiar to some of you. The photograph is of a guy sitting in his underwear, talking on a phone, and it is the famous "How you can make $4,000 a day sitting at your kitchen table in your underwear" ad. I'll read you a piece of copy from it. "I went from a young, bright, successful guy with a great job to an embarrassment to my family, a mooch to my friends. I sat in that basement after Peggy and the kids went to sleep, on one hand feeling like finding a bridge and jumping, on the other hand more determined than ever." This is what people want. They want to go from these negative emotional experiences to triumph. That's what they want. They want that much more than they want improvement for improvement's sake. They want it much more than they want opportunity for opportunity's sake. They want it much more than they want wellness for wellness's sake. They want to go from a collection of negative emotions and experiences to triumph. That's what we sell with our copy. Second key factor, emotional pain. Powerful sales copy inflicts emotional pain. We twist the knife. When we can figure out what a target market's emotional pain is, then we want to make it as painful for them as is humanly possible. A copy win is the person who read our copy and then could not sleep because of the angst we created. So you've all had an experience of intense emotional pain. You have failed miserably, for example, at something. You have embarrassed yourself somewhere. You have had a humiliating day or night, and you come home and you can't get it out of your head. That's exactly where I want the reader. Then I, of course, want to solve it for him. So the methods of twisting the knife, here are the main ones. One is with an all too familiar scenario. Okay. Here's a favorite cartoon of mine. They're at the altar, and she is saying, "That's what you're wearing?" The headline is, "It starts." Isn't that an all too familiar scenario? I had a first wife who did that a lot. You're going out the door. Are you wearing that tie with that suit? No, I put it on for practice. No, I'm going to take it off in the car and go tieless. No, of course I'm. What? Right before you went out the door. All too familiar scenario. Personal stories and confessions the reader sharply identifies with. This is copy for a client of mine who's a real estate coach who sells to other real estate agents. I'll show it to you and read it. It's in the middle of context of a lot of other copy. But the day that turned my life around, I looked at that trophy that said I was number one, but I felt like an absolute zero. I sat in a near dark room alone, Catherine upstairs asleep, a storm pushing rain against the window and occasionally illuminating the black sky with a momentary bolt of light. And I stared at that trophy and felt my hatred for it deepening, my shame in having it wrenching. I stared at that trophy and cried. I cursed and swore at that damn trophy. It lied. I wasn't number one. I was number zero because I still had to work at everything as if starting out at zero. The morning after being handed the trophy and every morning thereafter, I had to answer the same bell, do the same drudgery, face the same rejection. I still had to apologize for interrupting dinner for another quick call that took 20 minutes. I still had to apologize for another Saturday at work. I still had to worry about where and when the next commission check would materialize. I still started each month with certain bills but uncertain income. I'd fought and clawed and worked day and night to get that trophy, but it changed nothing. You should applaud. Seriously, but that is a personal story that every successful real estate agent and pretty much any successful salesperson can identify with. They're getting accolades, recognition, award pins, trophies, praise, and yet inside, nothing has changed. They're waking up in the morning facing the same, oh my God, where's the next deal coming from, emotion. Now, it's embellished. Why? Because I want it embellished in his head. You could say it in 2 sentences, but if you're going to write good copy, you don't. You say it in 2 pages. You want to push him to despair. Third method, reminders of suppressed negative feelings about self. Here's copy from another client of mine. Actually, I'll give you 2 versions of this, reminders of suppressed negative feelings about self. I thought maybe they were right about me. Maybe I was in over my head. What the devil was I doing here? Sitting in the reception room of the president of a $100 million company waiting to tell him what to do. What if he asked what university I graduated from? What if he called other executives in? I've never felt confident speaking to groups. Here's another version of the same copy. I thought maybe my father had been right all along. We are not the sort of people who ever rise to top incomes or live in the big homes in the best communities. What made me think I could make tens of thousands of dollars a month when my father barely made as much working all year? If it's in their heads, we wish to stimulate it for them. Triggering negative imagination of others' poor perceptions of them. Just showed you that in the previous ads. Third factor, also a dark one, anger, rage, and resentment. Getting people mad and then selling to them is a great approach to selling. Has anybody seen the latest, the Toronto mayor guy, who's smoking crack and drunk, and he looks like Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live, so there's a new video today, in addition to the crack smoking drunk video. This one, he's like pretending to assault somebody and saying a bad word every 3 seconds and threatening the life of somebody and running around a room screaming manically. Okay? He is out of his mind with rage at whoever this person is, and it is perhaps fueled by booze and crack as well. Here's one thing certain. Simultaneous with that, in those minutes, he is incapable of rational thought. He is incapable of anything but his anger and rage. He is incapable of skepticism. He is incapable of analytical thought. He is incapable of critical thought. He is incapable of adding up value and comparing it to price. He is incapable of any of that. Mind can only hold one thing at a time, by the way. So if we get them mad, they are incapable of analytical, critical, rational thought about the proposition that we put in front of them. They are only capable about being mad. So we have distracted them from all of the ways that they figure out how not to buy. So let me give you some examples. So this is boardroom copy. Boardroom is one of the largest, I showed you the book this morning. Boardroom is one of the largest info marketers there is. Newsletters and books. Bottom line health, bottom line personal, bottom line business. All right? This is one of the great anger, rage headlines I've ever seen. It's boardrooms. The IRS has had you long enough. It would be great with a picture of a fist around somebody's testicles. That would be the perfect photo. That's probably a little much for boardroom. Wouldn't bother me to do it, but it's probably a little much for boardroom. The IRS has had you long enough. Siphoned out of our wallets is a piece of copy that appears. I didn't give you the whole page, and for what? So wasteful bureaucrats can throw our money down a rat hole, so money-grubbing politicians can use it to pay political favors, so IRS agents can hound you and harass you and treat you as guilty until proven innocent. I say enough. Amen. Yeah. And so this is, by the way, what it looks like. It's got a little picture of Marty Edelston, who just passed away, just left us, standing there with arms folded, and the IRS has had you long enough. The solution is a book, of course, with 5,022 ways that you can reduce your taxes and deprive the IRS of money. But if I get you mad enough at the IRS, you do not do a lot of critical thinking about how many of those 5,122 ways apply to you, how many are legal, what your CPA might think about them. So you don't think about any of that. You're just mad, and you act on being mad. How can you now act on being made mad? Well, you can't go grab your baseball bat out of your closet and go beat up an IRS agent. Okay? No, it's not a bad idea, but how can you? So the way you can act on the rage that has been created is buy the book. And you immediately feel better when you buy the book because you did something about being had long enough. Understand that in our world, purchase counts as accomplishment. And it is in our best interest to let that confusion occur. So the person who gets whipped up by this copy and is mad as hell at the IRS and the money-grubbing politicians and acts on his rage by ordering the book immediately feels better. Not as good as baseball bat, but he feels better because he has done something, finally, about this deplorable situation. Has he really done anything? No. Has he changed anything? No. Has he accomplished anything? No. Is he likely to? Nah. 90% of the books will never have the shrink wrap taken off of them. But at that moment in time, purchase was the same as accomplishment. It is in our best interest to let that be. Fourth factor, the one we'll spend the most time on. It's not all that dark, it's just fundamentally weird. And it's fascinating that we all operate this way. And everyone here will deny you do, but we all operate this way. So the fourth factor that you can use to drive a lot of business in our world is mysticism, in all of its various forms. So overwhelming majorities of our population believe in secrets. They believe in secret societies. They believe in conspiracies. They believe that there is some secret being withheld from them, that if they just had that. So fat people believe, no disrespect to any fat folk in the room. If it makes you feel any better, I once was one of you. Fat people believe in all sorts of secrets and secret conspiracies. They believe that there are ingredients put into the food, deliberately stuck in there to make people fat. They believe that there are diet secrets skinny people know that are withheld from them and not told to them. They believe all sorts of these things. Here is why they must. You can't help yourself if you're fat. From believing there must be a conspiracy, a secret. If you are poor, poor people believe that there are secrets deliberately withheld from them by rich people. That there is an entire conspiracy, societally and politically structured to keep them poor. They must believe that. What is the alternative belief? I'm a loser. I'm a big fat person with zero discipline, no sense, who cannot manage myself at all. I'm a broke person because I am willfully stupid, lazy, useless, pitiful, and pathetic. This is an unappealing proposition. A much more appealing proposition is that there's a conspiracy to keep me fat and poor. So mysticism exists because it's a viable and preferable alternative to reality for most people in many categories. So just so you have a handle, I have some facts for you. So, aliens from outer space. There are currently over 500 different organizations that people who believe that there are aliens from outer space among us that they belong to. In aggregate, they have 16 million members. There is, for example, the Ancient Astronaut Society, which of course believes in the existence of ancient astronauts. They each pay $139 a year in dues to belong to the Ancient Astronaut Society. The percentage of people in general, according to Rasmussen surveys, who believe in aliens among us. If you do a lot of coaching, it's easy to believe, by the way, in aliens among us. It explains a great deal. 32% believe in aliens among us. Percentage of people who believe in government cover-ups of aliens among us is 47%. Curiously, that's higher than the percentage of the people. I'm not quite sure of that math. Political conspiracies. JFK assassination, fake moon landing, 9/11 truthers, Obama birthers, Bilderbergs, One World Order, secret U.S. internment camps, death panels. Every single one of these things, it's more than 30% of the population believes them. I don't know if it's the same 30% I don't know that, but, right? Actually, there are entire industries around this, if you don't know this. There are speaking circuits, there are magazines, there are newsletters, there are products, there are DVDs, there are CDs. There's an entire industry just around political conspiracies. We have mystical powers. December 30th, year 2000. Anybody here from New Orleans? No? December 30th, the year 2000, the New Orleans Saints, the NFL team in New Orleans, for those of you who don't follow football, paid a voodoo priestess to perform a pregame ritual to free the team from curses. New Orleans then won its first playoff game in its team history, defeating the Rams. Somebody please text the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The percentage of adults who believe in ghosts, 34%. American Society of Psychical Research, which is research into the paranormal, like Ghostbusters. It has 9,000 volumes of research and has received over $50 million in grants from benefactors. Mystical powers. This is a sales letter, not from a real weird source. So how many of you in here know what Nightingale Conant is? Raise your hands nice and proud. Okay? How many people bought something from Nightingale Conant? Okay? This is a Nightingale Conant sales letter. And a successful one. Journey into the fourth dimension. Scientists are baffled. How is it that some people are able to gain access to information completely outside their physical experience? In this report, you will discover exactly how the CIA, the Stanford Research Institute, and others have done it, plus you'll learn how you can do it for yourself. Subhead, everyone has psychic ability. Better subhead, remote viewing, proof of non-local universal consciousness. This is a 16-page sales letter for an audio cassette program that teaches you how to separate your mind from your body and get psychic insight that you can use to be more successful in life and in business. This is a Nightingale Conant sales letter. This is not some bizarre entity, some person in a cave somewhere. So this is going to the Nightingale Conant list with a lot of people on that list like you, none of whom would ever admit to buying it. But a whole lot of people own it. Mystical powers. Self-generating electricity. A machine that makes its own electricity. This scam has been run over 500 recorded times, where investors have been brought into rooms and shown a machine that generates its own electricity. The first recorded one was in the 1800s. The most recent one was only 3 years ago to the tune of $20-some-odd million. Fountain of youth. Chirogenics, however you say it. The deal where they freeze you. If you haven't heard this pitch, by the way, and I realize now I run the risk of insulting somebody, you don't also believe in being frozen, do you? Two, okay, of course. Got to be in the front row. Got to be in the front row. Well, you'll love this. Let me deviate for a second. This is, wait till you hear this pitch. Wait till you hear this pitch. So I'll preface it by, I love the network marketing industry dearly, however. So up until this, the pitch at which I could not keep a straight face, I was in the back of the room the first time I heard it, and because I liked the people doing it, I ran from the room before I burst out laughing and ruined their whole meeting because they were in the bee pollen business. And the problem with the bee pollen business, if you don't know, is that it comes by taking the stuff off the feet of the bees, and the bees die when you take the stuff. And nobody really likes the specter of dying bees. So they have their scientist on stage showing a presentation about how to make their bee pollen. They have a patented process, and they have this machine that the bees go through, and it only takes the pollen from the left feet of the bees. Thereby, no bees die in the making of this product. Now, the guy who can deliver this with a straight face, okay? I mean, this is talent. Okay? But I now found something that trumps it. So this may look like ordinary bottled water to you, but oh, no, it isn't. This is H2 water. All right? And there's 5 different kinds. This is prosperity water. This is perfect health water. Okay? The slogan is, think it while you drink it. Wait till you hear the pitch. This is vibration hydration. While prosperity water is being bottled, everybody who is bottling it is chanting a prosperity chant. Hence, water. Infusing the water with prosperity energy so that when you drink it, you automatically, with no effort, no work, no change in behavior, become prosperous. If you don't need to be prosperous, perfect health water. No exercise, no diet, no nothing. They all chanted while the perfect health chant, while they bottled the water, and now all you got to do is drink the water. It's only $10 a bottle. Miracle cures. Sharks don't eat cancer. How many of you remember that baby? Hey? Sharks don't get cancer. Therefore, if you eat shark cartilage, you won't get cancer. On your own time, dissect the complete illogic of that statement, which for many years sold tens of millions of dollars of shark cartilage. All right? My dog does not shed. So if I ate my dog, I would still have a full head of hair, and no hair would have fallen out. Same logic. Exact same logic. Financial. I remind you of Bernie Madoff. A lot of people think that's new. If you want some fun sometime, Google Homestake Oil Swindle and get the book, which has the list of everybody who invested in Homestake Oil, which was another Ponzi scheme. Much like Madoff, the list is rich with people who should know better, including at the time the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, who invested in Homestake Oil, which was every bit as unexplainable as Enron. The Enron story was actually taken from the Homestake Oil story. They just substituted electricity for oil. In order to sell Homestake Oil, they went out in the middle of the desert outside of Palm Springs, and they put purple pipes, white pipes, green pipes, turquoise type pipes, plastic pipes up out of the desert, all crisscrossing each other, and they flew people over them in helicopters and said, "See?" And everybody signed checks. In 1999, a TV commercial was produced for Whiskas cat food with embedded subliminal messages for the cat. A CEO approved this. Percentage of the U.S. population that believes Elvis faked his death, 47%. I have a thing. You can't laugh at that. If you're firewalking and getting your head froze, so that after you die you can come back when your body's diseases are cured, you cannot laugh at the 47% of the people who believe Elvis faked his death. You are forbidden. Okay, of course. Okay, there we go. Well, so you'll like my theory about it then. My theory is, after his fake death, he spent his life working as an Elvis impersonator at Holiday Inns. Okay? It's called hiding in plain sight. Well, we could go on. People believe this. It's one of the 100 most powerful headlines in advertising. It never wears out because people believe in this stuff.
Thank you for listening to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with Dan Kennedy. If you love hearing in on these lost Dan Kennedy talks and speeches and calls, then please let someone else know about this podcast. That's how you can help it to grow. And the more it grows, the more free Dan Kennedy we can bring to you. Also, Dan would love to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to help you make maximum money in minimum time. Now, this free gift comes with almost $20,000 in pure money-making information for free just for saying maybe. You can get this gift from Dan right now at nobsletter.com. Not only will you get the $20,000 gift, you're also going to get a subscription to 2 marketing newsletters that will be hand-delivered by the mailman to your mailbox each and every month. One from Dan Kennedy and one from me, Russell Brunson. To get this gift and your subscription, go to nobsletter.com right now.